Imagine giving your body, your career, and your future to a single film and nearly losing it all. That's exactly what happened to Jim Caviezel on the set of The Passion of the Christ. We're not talking about typical on-set injuries or dramatic stories actors tell on talk shows. We're talking real physical torture, freak accidents like lightning strikes, hidden injuries, emotional trauma, and a career that Hollywood quietly buried afterward. Today, Jim is finally breaking the silence about the brutal truth behind one of the most controversial movies ever made. His story isn't just about survival, it's about what happens when you step too close to something powerful and untouchable. What you're about to hear will change how you see The Passion, Jim Caviezel, and Hollywood itself. Let's get into it. The lightning strike that shook the set. Near the end of filming, during the final scene set atop Golgotha, something almost biblical happened. Jim Caviezel was struck by lightning. Witnesses described an eerie stillness before the bolt hit. The skies above Matera, Italy, where they filmed, grew black, and thunder rumbled like an angry drumbeat. Jim was hoisted on the cross when lightning tore through the atmosphere, striking him and the assistant director, Jan Michelini. Jim recalled feeling a violent shock surge through his body, knocking him unconscious for a few seconds. His hair stood on end. His body was smoking. Against all odds, he survived without immediate visible damage, but many on set saw it as a clear warning, a chilling sign that forces beyond their understanding were at play. Even stranger? Michelini had already been struck once before earlier in the shoot. Once could be a fluke. Twice? It felt like destiny or a curse. Real pain behind the iconic scourging scene. When you watch the brutal scourging of Jesus, it's hard to separate the movie magic from the unbearable reality. Because during the filming of that infamous scene, the actors playing Roman soldiers actually hit Jim by accident. In one horrific moment, the metal barbed whip missed the wooden board hidden under Jim's costume and slashed across his bare back. He let out an unplanned, blood-curdling scream, one so visceral and pained that it silenced the entire set. That moment, captured forever on film, wasn't acting. It was survival. Jim later admitted he broke character and cursed loudly when it happened, something he deeply regretted given the sacred nature of the film. But who could blame him? Few actors have ever suffered as much for a role, and fewer still would willingly endure it again. Crushed under the weight of the cross. Portraying Jesus carrying the cross wasn't just emotionally heavy, it was physically catastrophic. The massive cross Jim carried was real. It weighed about 150 pounds and was awkwardly constructed, designed more for visual realism than comfort or balance. During one intense scene, the weight shifted unexpectedly, yanking Jim's shoulder violently out of its socket. His guttural cry of pain wasn't in the script. It was the result of sheer, blinding agony. If you rewatch the film closely, you can see the instant it happens. Jim crumples to the ground, his face twisted in real suffering. And Mel Gibson? He kept the cameras rolling. The belief was that real pain would make the portrayal of Christ's suffering more authentic. And it did, but at a tremendous cost to Jim's body, battling illness, hypothermia, and permanent damage. Physical injuries weren't the only dangers Jim faced. For weeks, he filmed half naked, drenched in freezing rain, or standing on rocky cliffs exposed to brutal winds. He developed hypothermia, pneumonia, and a severe lung infection. His lips turned blue. His body trembled uncontrollably between takes. Medical staff often had to intervene to warm him enough to continue filming. But the effects didn't end when production wrapped. Years later, Jim needed multiple heart surgeries to address the damage his body sustained during filming. In interviews, he admitted he wouldn't have made it through if not for his deep Catholic faith, which he says kept him going even when his body and spirit were at their breaking points. Was Mel Gibson willfully blind? As the injuries mounted and the accidents grew more bizarre, a serious question loomed. Did director Mel Gibson know and choose to ignore the dangers his actors were facing? Insiders report that Gibson was fully aware of everything: the real lashings, the dislocated shoulder, the lightning strikes. But in his mind, the suffering only added authenticity to the final product. To Gibson, The Passion wasn't just a movie, it was a sacred mission. And if suffering was part of telling the story truthfully, then so be it. Some see this as a director's artistic obsession, others call it negligence. Either way, the price was paid not by Gibson, but by Jim Caviezel. The silence that followed. You'd think a movie set plagued by near-death experiences would spawn countless documentaries, lawsuits, or exposés. But none of that happened. Instead, the production wrapped itself in a cone of silence. The narrative focused solely on the film's spiritual importance. No leaked hospital reports, no investigative journalism, no tell-all books, just tightly controlled interviews where the cast spoke only about the power of the story. The absence of behind-the-scenes revelations wasn't accidental, it was strategic. Hollywood knows how to spin a story, and the official story of The Passion left no room for tales of human suffering behind the camera. A career that was never the same. Before The Passion, Jim Caviezel was on the brink of Hollywood stardom. He was the brooding romantic lead opposite Jennifer Lopez. He was a rising star directors wanted to work with. After The Passion, it all changed. Jim's newfound strict adherence to his Catholic faith led him to reject romantic scenes, even simple kisses. He turned down roles that compromised his principles. Hollywood soon branded him difficult, the death knell for any actor's mainstream career. While his person of interest co-stars soared, Taraji P. Henson leading Empire, Michael Emerson starring in Evil, Jim faded into independent films and faith-based projects. His name, once a hot commodity, became a cautionary tale whispered around studio lots. Jim's bold stand against Hollywood's dark side. Jim didn't just step back from Hollywood, he started talking. In interviews promoting Sound of Freedom, he made it clear. He believed dark forces operated at the highest levels of the entertainment industry. He spoke about child exploitation, powerful cover-ups, and the spiritual rot festering behind Hollywood's golden facade. He didn't name names, but he didn't have to. The mere act of suggesting it was enough to ensure he would never be welcome in the mainstream again. For Jim, the risk was worth it. In his mind, staying silent would have been a far greater sin. A man forever changed. Portraying Jesus didn't just damage Jim's body, it reshaped his soul. He has said that while he suffered greatly during and after the Passion, he believes he was called to it, that the suffering was meant to draw him closer to God and to reveal truths he might otherwise have ignored. Jim Caviezel today is not the same man who walked onto that set 20 years ago. He's harder, more faithful, and infinitely more willing to walk alone. Is Jim Caviezel being punished for his faith? It's clear Jim didn't just fall out of favor, he was pushed. Whether it was for refusing to compromise his values, for exposing uncomfortable truths, or simply for being too much of a risk in an industry obsessed with control, Jim paid the price. Maybe playing Jesus didn't just end his Hollywood career. Maybe it opened his eyes to a world he could never be part of again. Jim Caviezel gave everything, his body, his career, and maybe even a piece of his soul, to bring the passion of the Christ to life. And the price he paid was higher than anyone could have imagined. What do you think really happened? Was Jim Caviezel punished for speaking the truth? Or did Hollywood simply reject someone they couldn't control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. And if this deep dive opened your eyes, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories. Hollywood wishes you didn't know. Trust me, the next video, it's going to take things even deeper.